what if the souls of all humans are trapped on Earth, unable to escape? And what if this is a truth hidden from us by the very institution that claims to guide us? It sounds impossible, right? But think about it. Why do so many people feel stuck in their lives, trapped in relationships that drain them, or stuck in jobs that feel like prisons? Why does it seem like no matter how hard they try, they can't break free? Could it be more than just bad luck? Could it be more than poor decisions? What if there's something else at play here, something far bigger than we've been led to believe? In this video, we're going to uncover the hidden truth behind why souls are allegedly trapped on Earth. And here's the twist: why the Church, the very institution that claims to have all the answers, may have kept this shocking secret from you for centuries. Stay with me, because what we're about to explore could completely change the way you view life, death, and everything in between. Trust me, the answers are more shocking than you could ever imagine. For centuries, we've been taught that when we die, our souls either ascend to heaven or descend into hell based on our deeds during our lifetime. But what if there's more to it than we've been told? What if souls don't just move on to the afterlife, but instead remain trapped here on Earth, unable to escape? One crucial concept we'll delve into is the veil, a mysterious barrier that separates the physical world from the spiritual realm. According to some ancient teachings and hidden wisdom, this veil prevents souls from moving freely between life and death. It holds them in a limbo-like state, trapped within the confines of Earth's existence. This veil is said to be a powerful force that we can't see or fully understand. But what if it's not just an obstacle, but a means of control? Why has it been kept a secret? Why has this hidden knowledge been buried for so long? The answers may shock you. Let's explore what's really going on behind the scenes and why this truth has been hidden from us for so long. Before we go deeper, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the shocking revelations we're about to uncover. Also, comment below and let me know. Do you think the veil is a tool of control? And if so, why has it been kept a secret? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. The Church's view on the soul. For centuries, the Church has laid out a clear and defined framework for understanding the soul's journey. According to traditional Church teachings, the soul is created by God at the moment of conception, and its primary purpose is to serve the Creator. The soul's journey on Earth is viewed as a test, a trial of faith, righteousness, and devotion. What a person does during their time on Earth ultimately determines where the soul will go, heaven or hell. In the Church's narrative, this life is a preparation for the afterlife. If a person lives a righteous life, follows the commandments, and seeks salvation through Christ, they will be rewarded with eternal life in heaven. Heaven, according to Church doctrine, is the ultimate reward, where souls will bask in the eternal presence of God, free from suffering, pain, or evil. However, for those who fail to live according to God's will, there is a stark alternative: hell. Hell, as depicted in traditional Christian teaching, is a place of eternal punishment, where the soul is separated from God and subjected to suffering for all eternity. The Church has firmly taught that this is the ultimate fate for those who reject God's grace, who sin without repentance. But beneath these clear and often comforting teachings lies a deeper, more complicated question. The idea of heaven and hell is simple, but is that the full picture? Does the Church, with all its centuries of tradition, hide deeper truths about the soul's fate, especially regarding the soul's ability to escape Earth? This is where things begin to get unsettling. Could it be that there are spiritual truths and teachings hidden from the masses? Truths about the soul's journey that conflict with the teachings we've been raised with? Is it possible that the Church over the centuries has intentionally kept certain aspects of the soul's fate a secret, or at least suppressed knowledge about the soul's true condition? These are the questions we're going to explore. The concept of judgment and why it traps souls. The idea of divine judgment is central to Christian theology. When a person dies, their soul faces a final judgment, where it is determined whether they go to heaven or hell. This judgment is said to be based on the life they lived, their actions, their faith, and their repentance. For those who have lived a righteous life, heaven awaits, but for those who have lived in sin, hell is their fate. However, the idea of judgment raises some intriguing questions. While it is clear that judgment is a pivotal moment in the soul's journey, what happens to souls who have not yet faced this judgment? What happens to those who are not yet deemed worthy of either heaven or hell? This brings us to the controversial notion of purgatory, a concept that has been debated for centuries within the Church. Purgatory is seen as a kind of waiting place, a state where souls who have not yet been fully purified or redeemed are kept until they are ready to enter heaven. It's neither heaven nor hell, but a place where souls are thought to undergo purification, often through suffering, until they are pure enough to stand in God's presence. The problem with this idea is that it suggests souls are caught in between two worlds. They are neither fully accepted into the divine realm nor completely cast into eternal damnation. Could this be a subtle form of entrapment, a waiting place where souls linger not yet able to escape the physical realm and reach their final destination? This state of limbo, purgatory, reflects the possibility that some souls are stuck, not just in an intermediate state, but perhaps even in a kind of spiritual trap, unable to fully escape the material world. Souls may be suspended in a cosmic waiting room, bound to earth until their purification is complete. Could this be a reflection of a much bigger cosmic issue, one that the Church has either misunderstood or deliberately concealed? What if purgatory isn't just a spiritual cleansing, but a state where souls are, in essence, trapped by forces beyond their understanding? What if the idea of purgatory was designed to cover up a deeper, more disturbing truth about the soul's journey on earth? That souls may actually be stuck here, unable to break free of this world entirely. The Church's control over spiritual knowledge. Throughout history, the Church has had a profound influence on the spiritual teachings of the world. For centuries, the Church controlled the flow of religious knowledge, dictating what was considered true and what was not. This power has extended beyond theology into the realms of life after death, the fate of souls, and the ultimate understanding of spiritual realms. Historically, the Church has been known to suppress any teachings that contradicted its official doctrine. Throughout the centuries, texts, scriptures, and knowledge that challenged or conflicted with the Church's teachings were not only disregarded, but actively destroyed. One of the most famous examples of this is the burning of the Gnostic Gospels, ancient texts that offered a radically different view of the soul, creation, and the afterlife. These texts presented the idea that the soul was trapped within the material body, and that only through spiritual awakening could it be freed. The early Church did not accept these ideas, and in response, these teachings were systematically erased from history. Why would the Church go to such lengths to erase texts and ideas that didn't fit within the traditional framework of salvation, heaven, and hell? Could it be that the Church feared these alternative teachings might expose a darker truth about the soul's journey? One that contradicts the binary view of heaven and hell? The answer lies in the possibility that the Church was aware of a deeper truth about the soul's fate, something that would disrupt its control over spiritual knowledge. If teachings about souls being trapped on earth or held within the material world became widespread, it could undermine the very foundation of Church authority. The Church built its power and influence on the belief that it was the sole authority over the fate of souls. If there were alternative teachings that suggested the soul's journey was not so simple, the Church could risk losing its grip on spiritual power. Even in more recent times, the Church has continued to guard its teachings about the afterlife, limiting access to certain scriptures and suppressing discussions about the soul's journey that go against traditional views. In fact, there are many within the Church who still argue that certain hidden or esoteric knowledge about the soul should be kept away from the general population, fearing it could spark rebellion or lead to a spiritual awakening that would upset the established order. The question we must ask is, what truths did the Church suppress and why? Were they hiding knowledge that could potentially free our souls from their earthly entrapment? Did the Church, in its quest to control spiritual knowledge, deliberately suppress ancient wisdom that offered a different view on the fate of souls? Was the Church aware of other spiritual teachings that conflict with traditional views? It's important to consider that the early Church was not the only spiritual authority in existence. Throughout history, various cultures and traditions have held views of the soul and the afterlife that greatly differ from the mainstream Christian narrative. For example, in Eastern philosophies like Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of reincarnation suggests that souls are not trapped in one life, but rather continue their journey across multiple lifetimes until they attain spiritual liberation. In these traditions, the soul's entrapment in the cycle of life and death is seen as the ultimate spiritual dilemma. Could the Church have been aware of these beliefs, and even of the teachings found in Gnostic texts, which suggests that the soul's journey is far more complex than a one-way ticket to heaven or hell? And if the Church was aware of these teachings, could it have deliberately kept them hidden from the public to maintain control over spiritual knowledge and salvation? As we continue our investigation into the hidden truths about the soul, it becomes increasingly clear that the Church has played a significant role in shaping and at times distorting the way we view life, death, and the soul's ultimate fate. What the Church has told us about the soul may not be the whole truth. There may be a much deeper, more mysterious story about why souls remain on earth and how they can truly break free from this world's grip. Segment 2. The Soul's Journey on Earth. When we think about the soul's journey, the traditional Church teaching focuses on the idea of one life followed by judgment, either heaven or hell. This narrative suggests that our earthly existence is a temporary test, one shot at proving our worth for eternal salvation. But what if this is not the full story? What if souls are caught in an endless cycle of reincarnation, constantly returning to Earth over and over again, unable to break free? The idea of reincarnation is radically different from the Church's teachings, but it is one that has deep roots in various spiritual and cultural traditions across the world. Reincarnation posits that the soul doesn't just live once. Instead, it is reborn in a new body after death, continuing its journey until it reaches a state of enlightenment or spiritual liberation. This idea is a central tenet in Eastern religions such as Hinduism and Buddhism. In these traditions, the soul undergoes many lifetimes, each one a chance to evolve spiritually and break free from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. But here's the catch. Every time the soul is reborn, it is often weighed down by the unresolved karma of previous lives, making it harder to break free from the material world. The idea of reincarnation has not only appeared in Eastern religions, but can also be found in ancient texts and indigenous cultures. For example, the ancient Greeks believed in a cycle of rebirth known as metempsychosis, where souls could be reincarnated into animals, humans, or even plants. Similarly, in various indigenous cultures, the soul's journey is seen as a cyclical process, where the soul is not bound by one life but instead continues on through different forms until it reaches ultimate spiritual freedom. This understanding of reincarnation paints a stark contrast to the Church's stance, where the soul's fate is determined in a singular judgment at the end of one life. So, could it be that the Church has kept the truth about reincarnation hidden because it challenges the very foundation of its teachings about sin, salvation, and eternal life? Could it be that the soul's entrapment on earth is not just a matter of sin, but a deeper, cyclical journey, one that the Church didn't want us to understand? The veil between worlds. Now, let's consider the concept of the veil, a boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm, which allegedly keeps souls from crossing over after death. Imagine a thick fog, obscuring our view of the other side, preventing us from truly understanding what lies beyond the earthly realm. The veil, in many spiritual traditions, is said to trap souls on earth, hindering their journey to the afterlife. But why would this veil exist in the first place? Could it be a cosmic force that intentionally prevents souls from escaping the physical world, keeping them bound to earthly desires and attachments? There are many theories that suggest that this veil is not just a natural barrier, but one that is manipulated by supernatural forces to keep the soul trapped on earth. One such theory argues that the veil exists because the soul is deeply tied to earthly attachments, things like material possessions, relationships, and desires. These attachments, the theory goes, weigh the soul down, preventing it from ascending to higher spiritual planes. If the soul is too attached to the material world, it becomes unable to break free from earth. The veil then serves as a kind of spiritual trap, keeping souls here until they are free of these earthly bindings. Another theory suggests that the veil exists as a result of spiritual manipulation. Forces, both seen and unseen, could be involved in keeping souls bound to earth, feeding off of their desires and attachments. These forces may take the form of temptation, false beliefs, or distractions that keep the soul's focus on the material world, preventing it from ascending. The concept of spiritual prison is present in various religious beliefs, suggesting that the soul is kept from liberation through deception or enticement. Could Lucifer, the ultimate deceiver, be one of the primary forces keeping this veil intact, ensuring that souls remain trapped in their earthly existence? Karmic debt and soul contracts. Another critical concept tied to the soul's entrapment on earth is the idea of karmic debt and soul contracts. In many spiritual traditions, it is believed that the actions and decisions made in past lives leave an imprint on the soul, known as karma. This karma follows the soul from one life to the next, creating debts that must be paid before the soul can ascend to a higher realm. Think of karma as a kind of spiritual ledger. Every action, every decision adds or subtracts from the balance. If a person commits harmful actions in their life, these actions create negative karma, which can trap the soul in the cycle of reincarnation until the debt is paid. It's not just the immediate actions of this life that matter, but the accumulated consequences of previous lifetimes that continue to haunt the soul. In this way, the soul becomes trapped by its own past mistakes, continually returning to earth to make amends for previous actions. This is why many believe that souls are stuck in a perpetual cycle of rebirth and reincarnation, unable to escape because of the weight of their karmic debts. In addition to karma, there is the concept of soul contracts, agreements made by the soul before incarnation to fulfill certain tasks or lessons in a given lifetime. These contracts may involve experiences of suffering, challenges, or tests designed to help the soul grow. But the question arises, can these soul contracts actually trap the soul? Could it be that the soul enters into these contracts unknowingly, becoming bound to earthly experiences that keep it tied to the physical world? Some spiritual teachers believe that the soul can only escape earth once it has learned all the necessary lessons or paid its karmic debts. Until then, it remains stuck, endlessly repeating its mistakes in different forms. Could the reason we feel stuck in life, the reason we can't seem to break free from our struggles, be a result of unfinished soul contracts or unresolved karma? Lucifer's role in the entrapment. Let's take this one step further and consider the possibility that Lucifer, or other spiritual entities, are playing a direct role in keeping souls trapped on earth. Lucifer, once the morning star, was cast out of heaven because of his rebellion against God. According to some teachings, Lucifer's desire for power and control led him to deceive and manipulate both angels and humans, causing them to fall from grace. Could Lucifer, in his desire to disrupt God's creation, be actively involved in trapping souls on earth? Some spiritual traditions suggest that Lucifer uses temptation, false beliefs, and even the manipulation of desires to keep souls bound to the material world. Instead of allowing them to ascend to higher spiritual planes, Lucifer might be feeding off their attachment to earthly things, preventing them from ever breaking free. Lucifer's influence could be seen as part of the larger battle between good and evil. As souls come to earth, they are subject to various temptations, desires for wealth, power, fame, and sensual pleasures that keep them focused on the material world, making it impossible for them to seek spiritual enlightenment. These desires could be seen as tools used by Lucifer to keep the soul distracted, making it harder for the soul to focus on its true purpose or spiritual liberation. In this sense, Lucifer's role in trapping souls might not be as simple as just leading them into sin. He could be actively intervening in the soul's journey, keeping them from realizing their potential and preventing them from ascending to a higher state of consciousness. Could Lucifer's influence on Earth be the reason why souls remain so tightly bound to the material world? Is he the one perpetuating the cycle of reincarnation, using temptation to ensure that souls never truly break free? Conclusion. In this segment, we've explored some profound and unsettling ideas about the soul's journey on Earth. The concept of reincarnation, the veil between worlds, karmic debt, and even Lucifer's potential role in trapping souls all point to the possibility that souls are not merely passing through Earth for a brief period of judgment. They are bound, trapped, and caught in a much larger cycle that has been hidden from us. The question now is, how do we break free? How do we escape this cycle and see beyond the veil? Stay tuned as we continue to unravel the mystery of the soul's journey and the forces keeping us trapped on Earth. Segment 3. Hidden Teachings and Suppressed Knowledge. For centuries, the Gnostic Gospels have been locked away, hidden in the shadows of history. These ancient texts, many of which were written in the early centuries of Christianity, offer a radically different view of the soul's journey and the nature of spiritual enlightenment. The Church, as we know it today, rejected these teachings, declaring them heretical and ultimately banishing them from the biblical canon. But why? What truths did these texts contain that posed such a threat to the Church? The Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary, and other Gnostic scriptures present an alternative narrative of the soul's purpose on Earth. These texts suggest that the soul's journey is not simply about adhering to external rules, but about awakening to a deeper, personal understanding of the divine. According to the Gnostics, salvation isn't about following dogma or fearing eternal damnation. It's about gaining knowledge, or gnosis, that allows the soul to escape the material world and return to its true home in the spiritual realm. For example, in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus is depicted not as a savior who dies for the sins of mankind, but as a teacher who reveals the path to spiritual awakening. One of the key teachings in this text is that the kingdom of God is not a place to be found somewhere else. It is within each of us. The idea here is that the soul is already divine, but it has become trapped by the illusion of the physical world. The truth, according to Gnosticism, is that the soul can only return to its true nature when it sheds the attachments to the material world. This belief in spiritual awakening and liberation from the material world is incredibly significant. Could it be that this was the truth the Church suppressed? An inconvenient truth that threatened the very foundation of its power? By focusing on external rituals, dogmatic belief, and the fear of judgment, the Church kept people dependent on its teachings, preventing them from realizing their own potential to break free from Earth's hold. If the soul is trapped, according to Gnosticism, the way to escape is through inner awakening, gaining knowledge that transcends the material world. The Church may have intentionally silenced these teachings, as they directly conflict with the idea that salvation is found through external intervention, such as faith or church sacraments. Others suppress spiritual beliefs. The Gnostic Gospels are not the only suppressed spiritual teachings that hint at the soul's entrapment on Earth. Across different cultures and belief systems, there are countless examples of teachings that discuss the importance of spiritual knowledge for liberation, and the way the soul can become ensnared in the material world. Take Hermeticism, for example. Hermetic teachings, which date back to ancient Egypt and Greece, emphasize the idea that the physical world is an illusion and that the true nature of the soul is spiritual. The Hermetic texts, including the Emerald Tablet, speak of the need to transcend the material world in order to reconnect with the divine. These teachings focus on esoteric knowledge and the cultivation of wisdom to break free from earthly limitations. Hermeticism has long been viewed as a hidden tradition passed down through secret societies and mystery schools, often kept from the general public due to its perceived threat to mainstream religious dogmas. Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, also contains teachings about the soul's entrapment in the physical realm. Sufis speak of the need to purify the heart and soul in order to be united with the divine. The ultimate goal in Sufism is spiritual enlightenment, achieved through practices like meditation, prayer, and self-awareness. Sufism, like Gnosticism, presents a view of the soul's journey that emphasizes inner transformation, as opposed to external rituals or the strict adherence to religious law. In the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, initiates were taught to seek spiritual knowledge to liberate their souls. These schools were secretive and focused on esoteric wisdom that, if it were made public, could undermine the authority of the established religions. The Egyptian mysteries, as well as the teachings of Plato and other ancient philosophers, emphasized that the soul's true nature could only be realized through intellectual and spiritual awakening and not through blind faith or fear. So why did these teachings get lost or hidden? Why were such profound spiritual truths suppressed or erased from history? One could argue that knowledge is power, and those in positions of power, religious or political, have always been reluctant to relinquish control over the masses. If the general population understood the potential for spiritual liberation, they might stop seeking answers from external authorities and look inward, challenging the established systems of control. The suppression of these spiritual traditions is not a random event in history. It was a deliberate action taken by those who feared the loss of their influence. Whether it was the church, governments, or other institutions, the truths that might set souls free were kept hidden from the public eye. The importance of the inner awakening. One of the most powerful ideas that emerges from these suppressed teachings is the concept of the inner awakening. In many mystical traditions, the key to liberation is not found in external rituals, but in the awakening of the inner light. This inner light, often referred to as the divine spark, is said to exist within every person. It is the essence of the soul, the true self that connects us to the divine. However, this light is often obscured by the distractions and attachments of the material world. For the Gnostics, this inner light was the key to spiritual freedom. They taught that true salvation comes from within, through self-awareness, inner knowledge, and direct experience of the divine. Similarly, in Christian mysticism, the concept of the inner Christ refers to the divine presence that resides within the soul of every individual. By awakening this inner Christ, one could break free from the illusions of the material world and reconnect with God. This idea of spiritual awakening and self-realization is also echoed in Eastern philosophies. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the goal of life is to awaken the true self and transcend the cycle of rebirth. This awakening is achieved through meditation, mindfulness, and a deep understanding of the nature of the soul. It is not about seeking salvation from an external source, but recognizing the divine within oneself. The importance of the inner awakening is clear. If we are ever to break free from the traps of the material world, we must first awaken to the truth of who we really are. We are not our bodies, we are not our material possessions, and we are not defined by the circumstances of our earthly lives. The truth lies within us, waiting to be discovered. Once we realize our true spiritual nature, we can begin the process of liberation. However, this awakening is not easy. It requires dedication, self-discipline, and a willingness to look beyond the surface of life. In a world filled with distractions and temptations, it's easy to forget the divine spark within. But the teachings from these hidden spiritual traditions suggest that the key to escape from Earth's entrapment lies in turning inward and awakening to our true nature. Conclusion. In this segment, we've delved into the hidden teachings that have been suppressed throughout history, teachings that point to the truth that the soul's entrapment on Earth can be broken through spiritual awakening. The Gnostic Gospels, Hermeticism, Sufism, and ancient mystery schools all offer insights into the nature of the soul and the path to liberation. These teachings were not just philosophical musings, they were spiritual truths that were once known to the few, but deliberately hidden from the many. Could it be that the Church, with its firm grip on spiritual knowledge, has intentionally kept these truths hidden, fearing that they would lead to a spiritual awakening that would undermine its authority? Perhaps the real secret to freeing the soul from Earth's grasp is not through external intervention, but through an inner awakening. a return to the divine spark within. As we continue our journey through these hidden truths, one thing becomes clear. The key to escape may lie within each of us. The question now is, will we awaken to the truth, or will we remain trapped by the illusions of the material world? Stay with us as we continue to uncover the mysteries of the soul's journey and the forces that keep it bound to earth. Segment 4. Why souls stay trapped. One of the primary reasons why souls remain trapped on earth lies in their attachment to the material world. Every human being experiences some form of attachment, whether to wealth, status, power, relationships, or possessions. These attachments are natural in the physical world, but when they take hold of the soul too tightly, they can act as chains that prevent it from ascending to higher spiritual realms. Psychologically, attachment is often driven by the need for security, comfort, and validation. For many, wealth and power are seen as symbols of success, and the desire for these things becomes so intense that they define their entire existence. On the surface, they may seem like harmless desires, but spiritually they create a trap. The more attached a soul becomes to these material elements, the more it loses sight of its true spiritual nature. This attachment fosters a cycle where the soul is constantly pulled back to the physical realm, unable to free itself and move toward a higher plane of existence. Take, for example, the concept of addiction. Addictions, whether to substances, work, or even relationships, serve as forms of attachment. These compulsions, which may appear to offer temporary pleasure or relief, only reinforce the soul's dependence on the material world. They create an emotional and spiritual prison that keeps the soul focused on immediate gratification rather than the long-term goal of spiritual liberation. The spiritual concept of attachment is closely tied to the idea of desire. Desire is not inherently negative, but when it becomes obsessive, it can tether the soul to earth. In many spiritual traditions, desires are seen as distractions that pull individuals away from their higher self. The more a person chases fleeting pleasures, the harder it becomes to reach a state of true spiritual freedom. To break free from these attachments, one must practice detachment. Not in the sense of abandoning relationships or responsibilities, but in the sense of releasing the emotional need for these things to define our worth. By learning to detach from material desires, the soul can begin to transcend the cycle of earthly entrapment. Fear, guilt, and unhealed trauma. Another powerful force keeping the soul trapped on earth is fear, guilt, and unhealed trauma. These unresolved emotions are more than just psychological burdens. They can manifest as heavy spiritual energy that binds the soul to earth. Fear and guilt are incredibly potent emotions that, if left unchecked, can distort a person's perception of themselves and their spiritual journey. Fear is one of the most effective tools that keep the soul tethered to the material world. Fear of the unknown, fear of death, and fear of what may come after life prevent the soul from fully embracing spiritual freedom. Many people live in a state of constant anxiety, worrying about their future, their safety, or the unknown, and this energy keeps them grounded in the physical realm, unable to ascend to higher spiritual dimensions. Guilt operates in a similar way. Souls that carry unresolved guilt from past actions, whether in this life or previous ones, often feel unworthy of spiritual liberation. This guilt creates a feeling of spiritual heaviness, like a weight that the soul cannot shed. Whether it's the guilt of past mistakes, unhealed wrongdoings, or even inherited guilt from family or ancestral lines, it keeps the soul focused on penance and atonement rather than spiritual growth. Furthermore, unhealed trauma can be an even more powerful force in keeping the soul stuck. When trauma occurs, especially emotional or spiritual trauma, it creates energetic wounds that can last a lifetime if left unresolved. These wounds form spiritual blockages that prevent the soul from moving forward, creating patterns of suffering and repetition. For example, if a soul experiences betrayal or abuse in one life, it may carry those unresolved emotions into future lives, replaying the same patterns until it is healed. Spiritual traditions often speak of the need for soul healing or spiritual counseling in these instances. These practices are designed to help the soul confront and release the negative energy that binds it to the earth. Soul healing is not just about physical or emotional recovery, but about cleansing the spiritual energy that has become trapped in past pain. By facing fear, guilt, and trauma head-on, and by working through these emotions with compassion and forgiveness, the soul can begin to break free from the cycles of earthly entrapment, the forgotten or suppressed memories of past lives. One of the most intriguing ideas when it comes to the soul's entrapment is the possibility that souls carry memories from their past lives, memories that influence their current existence. These memories, however, may not always be consciously accessible. Many spiritual teachings suggest that souls do not just live one life, but experience multiple lifetimes across different periods, genders, and cultures. Each of these lives leaves an imprint on the soul, whether positive or negative. When we are born into a new life, the soul may forget its past lives, but these memories still affect its journey. If a soul has experienced unresolved issues in past lives, such as betrayal, abandonment, or unhealed emotional pain, these issues can carry over into the present life, manifesting as fears, anxieties, or negative patterns. The soul might find itself repeatedly drawn into situations that echo unresolved trauma from previous lives, creating a feeling of being trapped or stuck in an endless cycle. The concept of past life regression, a technique used to access memories of past lives through hypnosis or deep meditation, suggests that these memories can be consciously brought to the surface. When these memories resurface, they provide an opportunity for healing. If the soul can recognize and resolve the issues from its past lives, it may be able to break the cycle of reincarnation and move toward spiritual liberation. However, not all souls remember their past lives, and many of these memories are suppressed or hidden in the subconscious. The idea here is that these forgotten or buried memories may be a key reason why some souls remain trapped on Earth. They cannot break free because they are not fully aware of the patterns or karmic debts they are still carrying from their previous lifetimes. In spiritual practices, it is often recommended that individuals seek to unlock these suppressed memories in order to heal past wounds and release the attachments that bind them to Earth. This process of spiritual awakening, where the soul becomes aware of its previous lives and their impact, can provide the clarity and healing necessary to transcend the earthly realm. Conclusion. In this segment, we've explored why some souls remain trapped on Earth. From the attachments to material desires to the unresolved emotional burdens of fear, guilt, and trauma, these forces keep the soul bound to the physical realm. Similarly, the suppressed memories of past lives can create a spiritual prison, where the soul is caught in a cycle of repetition and unresolved issues. However, there is hope. Through soul healing, inner awakening, and spiritual practices, it's possible for the soul to release these earthly bonds and break free from the entrapment of Earth. The key is awareness, recognizing the attachments and unresolved energies that keep us grounded in the material world. By confronting these forces, the soul can begin to ascend to higher spiritual realms, moving beyond the cycle of reincarnation and returning to its true divine essence. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the soul's journey, remember this: the soul's liberation is not something that happens to it. It is something the soul must choose. The question is, will you choose to break free? The path to freedom and spiritual awakening. Now that we've uncovered the reasons why souls remain trapped on Earth, whether it's due to attachment to the material world, unresolved trauma, or past life influences, the next question is, how do we break free? How can we escape this cycle of entrapment and move toward spiritual liberation? The first step toward freedom is self-awareness. Without an understanding of the forces that keep the soul bound to the physical world, there can be no true progress. The journey to liberation begins with an honest assessment of one's attachments, fears, and unresolved emotions. This awareness helps us identify the patterns that are keeping us stuck, so we can consciously work toward breaking them. From here, spiritual practices play a vital role. Practices like meditation, prayer, and inner work are key tools for reconnecting with the soul's higher self. Meditation, in particular, allows individuals to quiet their minds and tune into their inner wisdom, creating space for deep spiritual insights to emerge. Through regular practice, individuals can strengthen their connection with the divine and gain a clearer understanding of their purpose. Forgiveness is another powerful tool on the path to freedom. Forgiving others, and even oneself, releases the spiritual weight of resentment, guilt, and anger. Holding on to these emotions keeps the soul tethered to earth, creating blockages that prevent ascension. By practicing forgiveness, individuals can free themselves from the emotional baggage that binds them to the physical realm. Healing is essential in this process, as the soul cannot move forward without addressing the wounds and traumas of the past. Whether through spiritual counseling, energy healing, or simply facing the pain with love and compassion, healing allows the soul to shed the negative energy that keeps it trapped. As the soul heals, it begins to vibrate at a higher frequency, opening up the possibility for spiritual growth and transcendence. These spiritual practices help break the cycle of reincarnation, reconnecting the soul with its true essence and purpose. Through self-awareness, meditation, prayer, forgiveness, and healing, the soul can begin to free itself from the limitations of the earthly realm and move toward higher spiritual planes. The role of faith and spiritual enlightenment. While spiritual practices are powerful tools for liberation, faith plays an equally important role in the journey toward freedom. Faith in God or the divine, depending on your spiritual beliefs, is the foundation upon which true spiritual awakening rests. Faith serves as a bridge between the soul's current state and its higher divine potential. It is through faith that the soul can trust in a greater plan and surrender the need to control its fate. Faith is also the belief that there is more to existence than what we see with our physical eyes. It's the understanding that the material world is not the final reality. There is a spiritual realm that transcends our earthly experiences. With faith, the soul can begin to release its attachments to material desires, trusting that the divine plan will lead it toward ultimate freedom. Spiritual enlightenment, the full realization of one's divine nature, is the result of deep faith and inner work. When an individual reaches a state of spiritual enlightenment, they no longer see themselves as separate from the divine, they recognize their own divinity. This awareness is the key to breaking free from the cycle of life and death and returning to the source of all creation. Many people have experienced profound spiritual awakenings throughout history. Some have had near-death experiences, NDEs, that revealed to them higher truths about life and the afterlife. These individuals report encountering beings of light, having deep insights into the nature of existence, and feeling a profound sense of peace and love. They return from these experiences with a new understanding of the soul's journey and an unwavering faith in the divine. Others have achieved spiritual enlightenment through deep meditation or mystical practices. These individuals often describe experiences of transcendence, where they feel completely at one with the universe and realize their connection to everything around them. This enlightenment is not something that can be attained through external rituals alone. It requires an internal shift in consciousness. These stories are not mere coincidences. People who have experienced spiritual awakening often speak of their lives being forever changed. They no longer view the material world as the ultimate reality, and they approach life with a renewed sense of purpose, love, and compassion. Their journeys show that true spiritual freedom comes from within, not from external sources. The ultimate secret the Church doesn't want you to know. Now, here's the shocking part. The ultimate secret is that true spiritual freedom isn't achieved through obedience alone. It's achieved through personal spiritual awakening. The Church, throughout history, has emphasized the importance of obedience. Obedience to God, obedience to the Church's teachings, and obedience to the rules that govern spiritual life. And while obedience can be a necessary step on the spiritual path, it is not the complete path to liberation. The Church's teachings have focused heavily on salvation through external acts of faith, through sacraments, prayer, and repentance. But what if there is more to the story? The truth is, spiritual freedom comes not from merely following rules, but from awakening to the divine presence that already exists within each of us. The soul's liberation is not about complying with external expectations or living according to someone else's teachings. It's about reconnecting with your own inner divinity. It's about understanding that you are more than your body, more than your earthly attachments, and that your true nature is spiritual and eternal. This truth, this secret about the power of personal spiritual awakening, is something that the Church has historically been reluctant to embrace. Why? Because it would mean the loss of control over spiritual knowledge. If people knew that true liberation comes from within, they would no longer need to rely on the Church for guidance and salvation. The institution might lose its authority and its influence over the masses would diminish. So what does this mean for you? It means that the key to breaking free from the cycle of reincarnation, from earthly entrapment, lies not in obedience to external forces, but in awakening. Awakening to the divine within you. Awakening to the higher truths that have been hidden from you for so long. You are the key to your own liberation. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this journey, the path to spiritual freedom is clear. It is about awakening. The Church may have hidden the truth for centuries, but the power to break free from the cycle of earthly existence has always been within you. By reconnecting with your higher self, practicing self-awareness, forgiveness, and healing, and embracing the faith that there is more to life than what we see, you can transcend the material world and ascend to a higher spiritual realm. True spiritual freedom is not found in external obedience. It is found in the awakening of your inner divinity. You are the one who holds the power to break free. Will you answer the call to awaken? Let's take a moment to recap the key points. We've learned that the soul's entrapment on earth is far more complex than we've been taught. Whether it's the attachments to material desires, unresolved trauma, or even past life influences, the soul remains bound to this physical realm, unable to transcend to higher spiritual planes. We've also seen how the Church has played a significant role in withholding knowledge, suppressing teachings that could reveal the full story about the soul's journey. From the Gnostic Gospels to other suppressed spiritual beliefs, the truth has often been hidden, kept away from the masses to maintain control. But now, we've begun to peel back the layers of this mystery, uncovering the path to spiritual liberation and awakening. True freedom is not achieved through blind obedience, but through personal spiritual awakening, awakening to the divine essence that resides within each of us. Now you reflect on everything we've discussed today. Consider this. What would happen if we all knew the full truth about the soul and our true purpose on earth? How would our lives change if we understood that we are not bound to this world, that we have the power to awaken and transcend the material realm? Could we break free from the illusions that keep us trapped and begin to live a life aligned with our higher purpose? This question isn't just rhetorical. It's something we must all consider as we continue our spiritual journeys. The truth is out there, waiting for us to discover it. The only question left is, are we ready to wake up? Finally, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Church has hidden the truth about the soul's journey, or is this just another conspiracy? What's your take on the idea of spiritual awakening? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. And if you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe for more revelations like this. There's so much more to uncover, and together we can continue exploring the mysteries of the soul and our true purpose here on earth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.